Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Pedro, hi. Thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk about whatever 500 is doing in Georgia.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here and share what we're doing.
Pedro, 500 Georgia has inaugurated its 5th batch. Now let's talk about the batch, and could you share some details about the industries and countries that startups came from?
This batch has 10 companies. They come from multiple countries. Georgia, obviously, as always, but also Azerbaijan, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and they cover multiple verticals. We have several AI-based companies, but they serve different industries. So some in education technology, some in the loyalty space, helping people buy with rewards. We also have other companies that are focused on the job market and solutions for employers and employees to find and fill in jobs faster. Other solutions for the hospitality and hotels. Many different mental health. So we also have a digital health company. So we try always to diversify regionally and in terms of verticals, and these 10 are a good example of that.
Pedro, Georgia is a unique case for 500 Global because here you're partnering with one of the biggest commercial banks, Bank of Georgia, and the government through GITA, the Georgian Innovation and Technology Agencies. Could you please explain what makes this partnership unique?
When we work in a specific country or in a region, we always try to operate or work in collaboration with both public and private partners. And this is one more example of that. And in this case specifically, the partnership is very strong and it has been working for many years, and we hope and expect that it will prolong for many years to come. Because on one hand, we do have the collaboration of the government through GITA, that allows us to support the acceleration program that we run in Tbilisi, which is very important so that we can attract founders from a very broad region to come here and try and show Georgia as a tech hub. So that's very valuable. And on the other hand, we have the private sector with the Bank of Georgia and a few other family offices that are also working with us, but the Bank of Georgia has been there from the beginning and is the key private partner in this whole partnership. That helps us not just with capital, so that we can invest in these companies that we train, but with a series of other things around brand building and media and community building. The bank has definitely gone and continues going beyond the expectations. They invest a lot more in terms of content and community building outside what was expected from the partnership. And so we're very proud that we were able to strike this relationship with both, and we'll continue it for many years.
Pedro, what's the difference between 500 Georgia's acceleration program and GITA's matching grants program?
They work in tandem. So GITA's grants, as in other countries, allow the country to create momentum at a very early layer of entrepreneurship. They're meant for companies that are just starting, founders that are trying to figure out if their idea has commercial viability. So it is very important to create what we say volume in the top of the funnel. So many companies at the very early beginnings, and then from those companies, some will actually succeed and progress with their development in terms of product and business. And those are usually the ones that are good fit for our accelerator. So they complement each other, and we expect that those synergies will continue over time.
Pedro, what is the process like for a startup to get into 500 Georgia's acceleration program?
There's different ways to do it. The most obvious is to go and apply through our website. The applications are open all year round. Anyone can apply at any time now, regardless if we're doing a batch or between batches. We're always continuously reviewing applications. That's the easiest. 500 Georgia, anyone who Googles 500 Georgia will find our site as the top result. Then there's the informal way to get it, either through myself or our personal network of mentors, our team on the ground. Usually that's a process that investors prefer indeed, because it's a warm introduction. We know that these founders, these companies already met someone in our network, and we also take a look at those investments through those informal networks.
Pedro, what are the requirements for a startup in order to qualify for 500 Georgia Acceleration Program? What stages are you looking at?
We invest in what we call pre-seed and seed stage. And what that means is we're looking at companies that already have a product built. It can be a prototype, but it has to be a functional prototype. And ideally already trying to sell it or have users for it on the market. There's few exceptions where sometimes we get companies that are pre-revenue, as we say, but we like to see companies that are already starting to generate revenue. That's one. So we like to see a product or a prototype. We don't invest in just a PowerPoint and an idea. Then with that product and prototype, we start looking at other things. We obviously look at the market's opportunity. So is that company trying to solve something that's really meaningful? In what we use to measure that is we look at how many people in the world or how many companies in the world or in our region actually suffer from that problem and how much would they pay to get the problem solved. And if the multiplication of those two numbers is big, that tells us it is an interesting opportunity to invest in. And then we look at the founders and we try to make sure that they have what we call founder market fit. Is that team of founders the right team to solve that problem? We know the product that I mentioned earlier may evolve, things will change over time, market conditions can change over time. So it's important that the founders already know the space, already know that industry, and can adjust with those moving conditions. And these are always the three things we look at. Then we interview the companies and we do a lot of due diligence on them, in their numbers, in their technology. But at the end of the day, size of the market opportunity, strength of the founding team, and a little bit of the product they already have are the three key things when we look at the companies.
All right, let's assume there is a company that has all these three parameters that you mentioned. What's going to happen next? What does your acceleration program entail? What do you work on with startups? And in general, what is this process like? How long does it take, and etc.?
Yeah. So between that process of looking at the selection criteria and starting the program, we still have an intense selection process. We have hundreds and hundreds of applications for usually 10 to 15 slots. And that selection process includes many things, many interviews with different people in our team, different experts in analysis of the numbers that the companies have to show. Once they are selected for our training program and investment, then we start the program. The program is a 3-month program, and it is designed with a hybrid model with some weeks in person, some weeks working remote, and it's designed that way so that we can, again, attract founders from other regions without having them move all their teams here, at least not at the beginning. So we have 2 weeks in person when we start the program, where we train the founders and we work with them in things that are foundational for the growth of the company. That includes things like customer development, business development, marketing. Then they take those learnings and they go home or to their operational centers for 2 months, where they continue getting the full-time support from our mentors and myself, and we do with them what we call growth experiments. So trying many different things in many different areas of the company, to see what is it that will spur growth, where is it that is going to help their companies go faster. And when they find something that works faster, they just start implementing that over and over and over, and they go on to move to other parts of the business that may not be growing that fast. After those 2 months of what we call growth experimentation and growth period, they come back for 2 weeks at the end of the program, of those 3 months of program, to work with us mostly on fundraising and fundraising strategy in preparation for the demo day. We wrap up the 3 months with a demo day. It's important to give them extra visibility, introduce them to other investors and other potential clients. But those 2 weeks are focused not just on preparation for demo day, but preparing them for their fundraising life post-program, which is critical for them and critical for us as an early stage investor. So we talk with them about how to fundraise, who do they fundraise from, what materials do they need to have to fundraise, how do they talk to the investors, how do they negotiate with the investors. So that's the wrap-up of the program for the 3 months. And then post-program, post-demo day, we have a portfolio value team and ourselves that together we help these companies in the months following the program Lots of emphasis still on fundraising and how do they get more investors, but also support on sales and marketing and how do they continue the momentum that we give them with the program, how do they continue that for the next months, years ahead.
Pedro, 500 Global is one of the leading startup accelerators in the world. Could you share some numbers and some statistics?
500 is definitely a powerhouse in investment. It started more than 10 years ago in Silicon Valley as an early stage investment fund, so focused on the pre-seed and seed stages that I was mentioning earlier, but now has evolved to be a multi-stage investment company. We have funds that invest at all stages of growth of the startups. We have close to 2.5 billion in assets under management. We have close to 3,000 companies in our portfolio, more than 5,000 founders for those companies. Our investment footprint now covers more than 80 countries or around 80 countries, and we're proud that Caucasus, Central Asia is now a big part of that. We have around 30 to 40 unicorns, and about half of that, and that's a very interesting fact for what we're trying to, or important fact for what we're trying to do here in Georgia in the region, is about half of that, 40 to 50% of those unicorns are non-US companies. And so that to us shows us that there's tremendous potential in these emerging markets, and we're very happy that this is one of those that we're working on now.
Pedro, throughout the years, as you just mentioned, 500 Global tutored and mentored a lot of companies. A lot of companies went through the acceleration process. Could you share a success story, one of the biggest companies, whatever you like, to just explain and show better, what 500 Global does?
Yeah, I mean, we have several of companies in these emerging markets, for example, where we took the company through the acceleration program and then help them grow as a unicorn or in some cases as a decacorn. We, to be honest, avoid picking one or another over them because, like I said, we have close to 30, 35 unicorns. But I can tell you that there's companies in our family of funds and family of accelerators like Canva and others that became well-known brands after having worked with us in our programs.
Pedro, thank you very much for your time. I really hope that this interview will help a lot of founders and finally we can have a unicorn here in Georgia soon.
Me too. It's always a pleasure to be here and share what we're doing with you and your audience. Thank you so much for having me.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.